Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a VCT tier list for the Americas region only for the kickoff tournament. And I repeat, this is only for the kickoff tournament, so I will tell you my predictions for it and also some of my predictions for how the teams will fare throughout the year. But this tier list that I'm making is specifically for how I think teams will perform in the kickoff tournament. So let's get things started with 100 Thieves. I think 100 Thieves are going to be a solid B tier team in this tournament, to be honest. They haven't had a lot of time together to really formulate strats, and as we saw at Red Bull Home Ground, there are some pieces missing there for sure. They are missing a lot of coordination and stuff that really comes, and even set plays and stuff like that, that really comes with a team that has been fundamentally working hard over the offseason. And this team has just been formed because of the Boostio transaction. So I think they'll be a B tier team, but I think this team could definitely jump up the ranks, and we could even see them being a low A tier team as the season goes on. Now let's go to Cloud9. Cloud9 I also think will be a B tier team, and I think they're going to perform slightly better than 100 Thieves at this one. Oxy is just a phenomenal player, hands down, and Vanity is a very elite caller. He will have this team ready. They will come prepared, and yeah, and just the pieces around Oxy as well. Zeppa is a terrific flash initiator player. His fragging has been a cause for concern in the past years, but I really think that as long as they're able to set up Oxy for success, that this team will be very impactful. And also the Whippy factor. People forgot how good Whippy is on the Sentinel role and how much of a fragger he truly is. And the two of Oxy and Whippy are going to provide a strong base for this team going forward. Not to mention Jake, who the controller player for Cloud9 as of last year, who had a phenomenal season. So they've got star power up and down. It's just if they can put it all together and if they can really set up Oxy on some lines that really benefit his op, and also setting him up on the attack and really being up to his pace. He really sets the pace. He goes fast, and yeah, the team has to be up to that speed and tempo for this team to truly be good. But I think they're going to be a high B tier team. I could even see them sneaking into A, but I'm going to put them as B because they have a lot of stiff competition. And I think Vanity also brings some strategy and anti-stratting and all that to this team, and there's just not a lot of that you can do at the kickoff tournament because of the so few games. Yeah, let's move on to EG. EG is rumored to have recently signed a roster consisting of Jogmo, Superman, Derek, Apoth, and Nature to IGL the squad. I'm not really a big fan of this roster, also since the time element to the kickoff tournament is going to make it really difficult on this roster. Even with a bye advantage, they get a bye past the first round. So I think EG are going to be the last team on this tier list. I'm going to put them in D. Even though I do trust Potter's coaching and her ability to form a team, I just think even last year's EG team didn't look fully complete near the start of the season. And so while they do have the potential to go up, certainly with star power like Superman, Derek, and Jogmo, but I just really think that this team isn't going to show much at the kickoff tournament. They just don't have enough time to really formulate. And there's also a lot of the thing is they do have the no pressure element. There is zero pressure on them. Everyone thinks they're going to be bad. So that could come into play. But I also just think they just don't have enough firepower to compensate for the lack of time that this team has to formulate strats and protocols and set plays and all that. Anyways, so let's move on to Furia. Furia is going to be a very interesting team to watch this year. They have been up and down throughout the offseason. They have had, if we go over to Furia, they've had an up and down offseason. They played at the Convergence tournament and the Superdome as well, and they also played, oh no, they didn't play another one here, but they looked really convincing at the Superdome, taking down Cloud9 2-0, and then eventually losing 0-3 to Leviathan, who Leviathan's going to be a pretty good team this year, all things considered. But like the roster also for Furia, this roster could do some damage. I mean, Khalil, he was the smokes player, I believe, last year for Furia. He came off, he looked insane at the start of the VCT Americas League last year. And then also MW Zera, I believe, is IGLing and playing Duelist. He is phenomenal. It's just whether or not they can put the pieces around him to succeed, and whether or not it's not just MW's era show. If they can, really set up good macro ideas and not just based on fragging, this team will be interesting to watch for sure. They also have Havoc, a Union player from last year who was, I believe, their duelist, but now he's flexing over to the Flash Initiator role. He'll be interesting to see if that fragging power can consist. A lot of these guys, it's just going to be how much they can support MW's era and how much they can get done on their own. Because MW's era, he's going to put up numbers, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee a win. Like if we look at some of these convergence games, MW's era, plus 11 scoreboard doesn't always tell the score. He only goes +2 in first kills, first death. That usually tells a little more. But they go down 0-2 to Vitality, and then also to Global Esports 2-1, which a lot of people are writing off Global Esports because of the lack of firepower they have on this roster. And they were also playing with the sub, I believe, and MW's era still dropping +27. Stats Andy or not, +27 still incredible, but they still, lose 2-1, 13-8 on Sunset. They take overtime and then a 13-11 on Haven. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to watch this Furia team. So I'm going to put them off at C. I think they could definitely surprise in this kickoff tournament, but I just don't have enough faith that they'll be able to put the pieces around MW's era to succeed. Anyways, let's move on to G2. G2, a very exciting roster. I believe Finesse called them the dark horse. They're not a dark horse. They've got Trent on their team. They've got Net on their team. They've got C9 Leaf from last year who can play literally any agent and frag on all of them. I mean, this team, I believe they're going to be an S tier team for the kickoff tournament. They're going to come out. They looked a little shaky in the Sentinels Invitational. If we want to pull up their stats over here. But I mean, they just announced Leaf into the roster. The four core of G2 have been together for 2 years now. This is their third year playing together, and I mean, they're going to be a good team. They're going to be a solid team nonetheless, whether you think they're going to make it to Madrid or not. But I personally think they will. I think they'll come in very prepared. They'll have lots of strats. They could. Leaf is gonna play the duelist, and Leaf can take over games on the duelist. But they've also got Trent, who could, flex to the Raze off of the Sova, and Leaf could flex to like a Sentinel role, or even a Chamber or something like that. They've just got so much versatility. And Valen is such an underrated caller. He is by far one of the best IGLs in the league. He just doesn't get the rep for it because he doesn't have as much experience or as much name value as a lot of these other IGLs. But don't get me wrong, this team, they can bring the innovation too. They brought the Viper into play on Haven, which is now basically what a lot of teams do on Haven is they do the Viper wall that covers off A short and B link to A, and it's really strong. And they were the ones who pioneered that, and they pioneered so many things over the course of the years. I'm really high on this G2 team. I think they're going to make it to Madrid. I think definitely there's a chance that this team slips a little down as the year goes on, or starts a little slow and progresses up as the year goes on. But either way, this team is going to be fun to watch. This team I'm really excited to watch, and it will be really fun to watch Leaf hopefully make it to his first international LAN since Champions of 2021, I believe. It's been that long, and he's such a phenomenal player. It will be nice to see him back on that stage. Also, Trent and Net are phenomenal players as well. So, anyways, I'll stop gushing over G2 and move on to Crew Esports. Crew Esports are also a very interesting team. Actually, you know what? I'm going to move Furia up to B tier. I think low B is fair. They're going to be a middle pack team, I believe. Crew Esports, I think, are going to be a C team. I wasn't really impressed by what they were doing during their LCQ run. And even though they've made some good changes, the addition of Shy from Leviathan, who is a very aggressive fragger and something they need on this team to set the tempo with Kesnet, I don't think this Crew team is going to be very strategically deep. And I think that's going to end up being a problem. They could maybe make a surprise. They're more of a tournament team, so I could see the kickoff tournament being a good tournament for them. However, I don't see it. Melzer's a good caller. Melzer's a good caller. Shai, Kesnick, good pieces. Klaus. I don't really know much about MTA, but Klaus struggled last year. Just some of the plays he was making makes you question some of the strategical choices that roster was making to take space. So personally, I think they're going to be a C tier team for this kickoff tournament. Yeah, they could jump for sure. There's definitely that possibility, but I just don't have a lot of faith until I see it. I have to kind of see it with this roster to prove it. Like I wasn't even high on them when they looked really good at LCQ and they're going into champs. I was like, this team, they're hot streaking it, and they could hot streak it in this tournament, but I don't see that as likely. It's not as many matches. If you go 0-2 or you lose that first game, it's going to be hard to rebound from that. So yeah, Leviathan. Ooh, Leviathan. Hard one to predict. I would have put them S tier and going to Madrid earlier in this offseason. However, I'm going to put them high A because of the recent addition they made of Com. Even though he's a world champion, Com is going to probably frag pretty hard on this roster and it's going to be good. But just because of the conflict that this team had internally, that they had to call a meeting before the season even started to make this roster addition. So the fact that Aspas wasn't happy with this, he wanted to play with Noswar, I think says it all. That you're not going to get the best out of him. He's not going to be as committed to this team just because of the fact that the management seemingly screwed him over just a little bit. So I mean, they're going to be good. They're going to be good. Tex, is a fantastic player. He's also making a role swap, so that makes me question some things a bit. But King, of course, fantastic fragging IGL. He'll be good. Mazzino, I wasn't really a big fan of his play on the controller. I preferred him when he was a flex player better. I believe he played flex. I swear he played flex, and I like that so much more out of him than controller. Yeah, he plays everything, but I mean, he used to play back in the first lands they made, Leviathan, back in 2022. Or no, he was on crew. Maybe I'm confused with someone else. Anyways, Mazzino, doesn't matter really. I wasn't a big fan of his plays on the controller. So I'm still going to put this team A. Loud, I believe, is a dark horse. This team, the system, you can't argue with the system that Loud have created. They've lost their head coach, so that's going to be a big loss for them. But they still have this man here, Sadak, one of the best IGLs in the world, and he is going to take this team deep still. They're going to be a good team. And I mean, we can't forget about Les and Cowanzine. And I'm still unsure if QCK Quick, if he's going to be hopping over to the duelist role, or if Tuiz is going to, because Tuiz used to play duelist before he came to Loud, then he switched to controller, and if QCK is going to be hopping over to that controller role, because he is very flexible, and that is something that they need. And a lot of people question this pickup, but I think this could work out, especially if he's the dive agent. Just that's all you need. That's all you need. You need someone to dive in there, Les and Cowanzine to come behind and just friggin' frag. These guys can frag. Sadak can IGL massively, and they can also innovate a lot. They did a lot of cool innovation on Pearl last year with the Viper Harbor. Also with the Fade Breach that they brought out of Champions, I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I think this team, I don't think they're going to make it to Madrid, but I'm actually going to put them above Leviathan, which might be a bit of a hot take, but I think you just can't underestimate Sadak. He always gets it done, and until otherwise he proves otherwise, I think I'm going to bet that this Loud team is going to be all right this year. And I think they're going to be a top 5 team in my eyes, but they could even punch for some of those international events. And that's going to be really interesting to watch if it's with the coach leaving, if it's the IGL or the coach. And speaking of the former Loud coach, we've got MIBR, who is being head coached by Fraud now, I believe, and Bazooka, who used to be the Loud head coach as well. Oh, no, that's Furia, not Furia. Bazooka, who used to be the head coach as well, he is over to the assistant coach role, if I believe, and Fraud is head coaching. This team, I'm not really impressed by the names I see. They kind of kept that old MIBR core from last year, which wasn't very successful. and just added in some, up and coming talent. I believe Artsim's from 00 Nation, who played in the Ascension tournament last year. Yeah, 00 Nation. And they just, I'm just not, I'm not as familiar with the Brazilian scene, to be fair, but I still don't think you trust in a core that, even with two really good coaches, like, because Bazooka coached this team last year and they didn't do that well. So I don't think you trust in a core that really hasn't proven itself. And so for that reason, I'm going to put them above EG in that D tier, just because I'm not really expecting anything from them. But they're going to be better than EG at the kickoff tournament anyways. They've had more time to prepare. And now we move on to the two most interesting teams in my eyes, NRG and Sentinels. Will Sentinels be able to keep up their off-season run, or will they, do the Sentinels thing and miss LAN again with all the hype? So I think personally, I think Sentinels are going to make Madrid. I think they're going to ride this hot streak with Zelsis and John QT. John QT, he's going to be the MVP of this whole league in my eyes. He's the best fragging IGL by far in probably the world. I mean, name a better fragging IGL. He also just does so much for this team in terms of the mid-rounding. They can fall apart, they can play loose, and he can bring it all back together. And Zekken, of course, star duelist, he's going to be amazing. Tens is going to be a question mark. If he and Zekken can really get going on the entries together, this team is going to be scary. Saucy is always a pretty good rock on Sova. He'll be very good with that supportive utility. My only question is him on like the flash initiator roles. How good will that be if they put if they keep him on that Sova, or if they have to flex him over to Sky or a KO? I imagine his breach is pretty good, but the Sky and the KO, I don't think he plays KO, so I think maybe we'll see tens on the KO. But anyways, Zelsis, the addition of Zelsis is just hugely impactful. And when they made this change, I thought, oh, for sure, tens is going to be subbed out for Zelsis. This is for sure probably what they're planning, because Zelsis is just such a tantalizing flex player to have on the bench, and tens has been inconsistent over the past couple years. But interestingly enough, they have subbed out Pencata, is what it's believed, and Zelsis is now playing the smokes role, which is new to him, but he's picked it up really well in some of these off-season tournaments. And they're also doing just the right thing. They're playing a ton at the start of the off-season. I mean, if we look at their match results, they played the Africa TV Valorant League, they played the Sentinels Invitational, they played the show match. This wasn't really competitive. They played the G2 Sen show match and the Sen MXS show match. This is a good handful of games. This is like 10 or so games before the start of the year. And also traveling as well. They traveled to Korea to play this one. They're going to be well formulated as a team, and it will be really fun to watch. I think this team also is a tournament-built team. They just are so good at adapting, and while they might not be as strategically there, strategical depth might be their downfall, and I could easily see this Sentinels team slipping down to the A as the season goes on. I think they will make Madrid. I think they will run this hot streak all the way through it, and maybe even be one of the contenders in Madrid. They've just got such phenomenal firepower, and they've got a good caller now, and Zelsis also helps with the comms as well. They've just got a very vocal team, a very good team, and that's a very good recipe for a tournament where people might not be as strategically depth because rosters are still forming, and anti-stratting isn't really a thing because there's going to be only a couple matches that you have to go off of. But yeah, teams can anti-strat Sentinels if they want. There's a lot of info on them, but they've stopped playing, which is the big thing. They didn't play in the Ludwig X Tarek Invitational, which I thought was a fantastic decision. A decision that really shows that this team has checked all the boxes for this offseason. So I will be surprised if they don't make it to Madrid. Anyways, NRG was also a team I really put a lot of thought into. I'm going to put them at a low A tier. I don't think they're going to have the coordination or the set strats in play to really be competitive at this tournament. Also, Chet, the head coach of NRG, he really likes anti-stratting. He really likes putting that pressure on other teams by seeing what their tendencies are, what their protocols are, and how to abuse them. And there's just nothing you can do with that. So I think this team will definitely rise up to like the S tier as the season goes on. But for the kickoff tournament specifically, I think they're going to have a few troubles getting the coordination down, a few troubles with the IGLing. I think there will be some growing pains. Ethan is a very smart player, and they're all very smart players, but I think there will be some growing pains to playing together, even though this team, I think, will get it together and will make the next Masters in Shanghai. Anyways, this has been my tier list video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm very interested and very excited for the kickoff tournament. Hopefully it lives up to the hype, and hopefully, a lot of these teams that I predicted to go high don't go out in 2 matches, as we can see if we pull up the kickoff stage. Any one of these teams, like, they haven't released the bracket yet, which I will be doing pick'ems for. I will be doing VCT America's pick'ems if you guys want to see some of that. Yeah, let me know in the comments. And yeah, please be sure to like and subscribe if you like this type of content. And I'll see you guys in the next one.